Begin today the Gemara on Daf Ayin Vav Amud Beis, where it says Amar Rav Papa. So the Gemara here continues with what it was brought before here in the Braisa regarding Oisius, which means letters that are in a document. How do you acquire a document? So we're talking here about a document of a loan, and you want to sell not just the physical document, but you're selling also the shibud and the rights to collect that loan. How do you acquire this? So the Gemara before brought a machlokes between Rabbi and Rab Nosson. Rabbi says that you buy a document just by Mesira. You hand it over, you give it over. But Rab Nosson says that that's not enough. That Oisius you have to acquire with Mesira, but you also have to write another shtar in order to acquire this shtar itself. Okay, so here the Gemara brings the Amiroim that spoke about this and what the halacha is. Amar Rav Papa said, Haiman de Mazbinle shtar lechavre. A person that sells a shtar to his friend. So Rav Papa is paskening like Rab Nosson that tzarich lemichtavle, you have to write into this. You have to write for the sale another shtar, and you write kini hu v'chol shibud debei, that you should acquire this document and with all of the shibud, the lien that there is in this document for the loan to be able to collect the loan for yourself. Okay, so as I said, he's paskening like Rab Nosson that it's not enough just to hand over the shtar. You have to write another document for this. Ravashi says, Amrita l'shmaita kamei Rav Kahana. I said this halacha of Rav Papa in front of Rav Kahana, v'omrit lei, and I said to him, so what does this mean? Taime the kasav lehachi. The only reason why the kinyan takes effect is because you write another document for the sale, and you're writing that you're selling this shtar with the loan that's in it. Hale kasav lehachi. But if you don't write another document for this sale, loy kani, you won't acquire the shtar. But why not? Why isn't Mesira just giving it over good enough?
So he can be accused of stealing.
What do you mean? Why? What if he's collecting it?
You got it.
No, but he has Adim. He has Adim that he bought it. It's clear that he bought it. So that's not the issue. So therefore his question is, if you're receiving a shtar from a seller, he's giving it to you. So what is he giving it to you for? He's just giving it to you to use to cover a jug. He's not giving it to you stam to cover a jug. He's giving it to you, he's selling you the shtar with the contents of the shtar, the whole loan in it that you're able to collect it. So why would it be necessary? Why would it be necessary to write another shtar for this shtar here to sell it? Okay, so this is the Rashbam's pshat in the Gemara. That the discussion here in the Gemara is: are we paskening like Rav Nosson, or are we paskening like Rebbe, that you don't have to write another shtar on this? The Rashbam here says, are you going to say, look at the money that was paid over here? If you're buying a loan, so usually you pay much more than just buying the piece of paper. So can't you just look at the money? So the Rashbam says, even if you look at the money, the Gemara is still saying that if you paid extra, so then it'll be the mekach will be bottled. Because he was like, no, you paid extra for this. So the whole, you just have to give back the money, or the whole mekach is bottled. But without even writing another shtar, the sale should take effect just with the Mesira alone. That was what Rav Kahana held, or Rav Ashi that said this over to Rav Kahana. Amar Ameimer said about this, Hilchaseh, the halacha is, Oisius niknes b'Mesira. That the Oisius, a document, you acquire just with Mesira alone, kerebi, like Rebbe's opinion. This is the Rashbam's Girsa in this Gemara, and the Rashbam here says that this is the Psaktin in Gemara in different places, that when you want to acquire a shtar, you want to acquire a loan, you just give it over. You don't need another shtar to be written for this. Other Rishayim though disagree. Taisus here, Barichas, Gedayla, and the whole Sugya disagrees and says that you guide us in the Gemara, Oisius ein niknes b'Mesira, or ein Oisius niknes b'Mesira, that you can't acquire a loan just by giving it over. You have to write another shtar for it in order to be kaina. That's Taisus' Girsa, that we pass like Rav Nosson. Now, Amalei Ravashi la Meimer, Ravashi says to Meimer, let's learn the Gemara here. Continuation, there's two ways how to learn it. Rashbam and Taisus will learn with the Rashbam's pshat. So Ravashi says to Meimer, Gemara is svara. Are you saying that you paskin this way like Rebbe, just as a tradition that you makabel that this is the halacha, or there's a svara why you're paskening this way? It's logical. Amalei Gemara says, I have a tradition that this is the psak din. Ravashi, so Ravashi says, svara namihu. It's also a svara, because the oisius milininhu, the shtar which you're selling is words. It's not just the paper; it's the words. It's the content of what it says in it that you're selling. Umili b'mili loy miknin. to sell the words of the shtar, writing another shtar for this sale doesn't really add anything. There's no purpose of writing another shtar for this shtar in order for it to be kaina. The giving over the shtar, the fact that you're physically doing an action, the seller is giving over, that's the Maisa Kinyan. But to write another shtar in order that this contents of this shtar should be sold, it doesn't add anything, and therefore there's no reason to write another shtar. That's the Rashbam's pshat here. Now this, the Gemara asks, V'loi, is it not going to be worth anything that you can sell something without Mesira, just by words? As the Gemara here is saying that the main kinyan of a shtar is giving over of the shtar. Writing another shtar for this shtar is meaningless, doesn't add anything. But the Gemara asks, from what we see, that other Amiram spoke about this, and there it seems that the words regarding selling a shtar is significant. Because V'amar Abba by Yitzchak Amarav, Shnei Shtarisem. There are two halachas that are said regarding a shtar. One halacha is that if a person tells a shliach that regarding a property of his, Zechu b'sada leploini, you should go and be zeiche, in other words, sell this field to so and so. And you also tell him the kisv'lo shtar, and write the shtar for him. So you're pointing a shliach to do two things, and you're not saying that one is dependent on the other. You're telling him sell this field, and also write for the buyer a shtar that he acquired it. So you should have proof that he acquired the field. So what's the halach in this case? Chayze b'shtar ve'ena chayze b'soda. Regarding the sale of the field, you can't have charata from that. Once you gave the shliach that right to go and sell it, so then you can't uproot that shlichus. But beneged to the shtar that's written for the sale, that's something that no shtar could be written without the consent of the one that's selling, the one that's wants that shtar to be written. If at any time before the shtar is written, he takes back his agreement, he decides I don't want the shtar to be written, so then you can't. You don't write the shtar. The Rashbam here brings, even though the Gemara earlier in the Masechta here says that regarding any sale, even if a person doesn't say beferish, I want the shtar to be written for the buyer, that I'm selling him this field, you don't need his beferish agreement to write the shtar. You write a shtar automatically for a sale. But on the other hand, though, if the person clearly says, I don't want the shtar to be written for the sale, then you don't write a shtar. You can't write a shtar against his will. So over here, after he gave the go-ahead for the sale, so it's too late. He already gave over the sale. So the sale takes effect. That he can't have charata from. But the writing of the shtar, though, against his will, that he can take back. Another halacha was said, if the seller that's giving this over to a shliach says, Al menas shetichtu v'lo yasashtar, that the sale is, when is the sale going to take effect? When the shtar will be written. So he's saying that the whole sale depends on the writing of the shtar. So then in such a case, chayze bein b'shtar bein b'sada, you can take back both the writing of the shtar and the sale of the field itself, because you never agreed to the sale yet unless the shtar is written. And regarding the writing of the shtar, you don't write a shtar against the will of the seller. So in such a case, you can be chayze both from the shtar and from the sada. Now Taisus here explains, why would this seller not want to write a shtar if he's selling the field anyways? What would be the point of not writing the shtar? He doesn't want the buyer to have a proof that he bought it. What, he's planning on stealing it from him one day? Why doesn't he want to write a shtar? So Taisus says the reason is, even when a person sells, but he doesn't want the shtar, he doesn't want everybody to be able to see the shtar that he sold this property, because then people will see that this person is strapped for cash and he's selling his properties, and then he'll have a hard time borrowing money. It'll affect his business. If you're selling a property, he doesn't need the whole world to be able to see this document. It's still a hate, he sold it. That's why he doesn't want the shtar. A third halacha, Rav Chia bar Ravin Omar Rav Huna, that Shloisha shtar is saying. There are three halachas that were said about a shtar. Today, Hada Maran, two is what we just said, but then Idach, a third halacha, and this is the halacha that is going to be relevant here to our sugya. If a seller goes ahead and writes a document for the sale in advance, he writes up a document that I'm selling this property to so-and-so. And the Gemara explains that this is allowed to be done, even if the buyer is not there yet. You can do, the Meicha goes and writes the shtar. As it says in the Mishnah, Kaisvin shtar le'meicha, you can write a shtar for the seller, even if the lekech is not here. And the chiddush here is, even though it sort of looks like a lie, you're writing the shtar and for a buyer, and there is no buyer here. So what are you writing? It looks like what you're writing is not true. But nevertheless, you can write this shtar. No one's losing by you writing the shtar in advance. Adarabah, the lekech is happy that you're already writing him a shtar in advance, that you're selling him his property. So in such a case, when you wrote that shtar in advance, kiven shehichzik ze bekarka, when the buyer then takes possession of the karka that he acquires, nikne shtar b'chol makom shehu. That shtar that was already written in advance is acquired to him wherever in the world it is. He acquires it. And v'zui sheshaninu, this is what it says in another Mishnah in the Chosim, she'en lem achrayis, properties that you have no achrayis on it. This is a term used for metaltalin that are here today and are not here tomorrow. Nikninim nechasim sheyesh lem achrayis, could be acquired together with the property, a piece of land, which there's achrayis for it, that it always stays where it is. V'kesef, shtar, v'chazakeh. That once you acquire the piece of property with a proper kinyan, one of these kinyanim, whether kesef, shtar, and chazakeh, so then the shtar you acquire along with it. Meaning the way the Gemara understands what it's just over here, what Rav Huna or Rav Chia Baravin that is, in the name of Rav Huna. What he's saying over here right now is that when you acquire a field, and there's a shtar that was already written in advance, the agreement of the seller, just the very fact that the seller said words, I agree to sell you this karka, that agreement is enough that the shtar should be acquired together with the karka. So what is the Gemara saying here?
The shtar needs to be acquired. The shtar is a raya that you're making.
Yeah, but how does the shtar? But the shtar was written by the meicher, though. The shtar belonged to the meicher. He paid for it. He hired the scribe to write it. It's the meicher's shtar. The physical shtar belongs to the meicher. So you have to have a kinyan that the buyer should acquire the shtar as well. So the Gemara here is understanding at this point that how does the buyer acquire the shtar? Just by words, just by the agreement. If there's an agreement on the sale of the karka, the shtar goes along with it together with the karka. You don't need a separate kinyan for the shtar. So the Gemara is asking, why did we say before that when it comes to a shtar, which is words, it's milininu umili b'milile mikna, that you can't acquire a shtar just with words. But over here you see that just the agreement, the words of the seller to sell the karka, the shtar will be sold along with it automatically. So the Gemara answers, no, we misunderstood what he was saying. Agav shani, over here what it's saying is that this is a kinyan of agav. Agav means when you acquire a piece of land, along with it you can acquire any other metaltalin. This is a proper kinyan. Agav is a kinyan that's learned out from a pasuk in Torah, or I don't know if in Chumash, but in a pasuk in Nach, where there's a pasuk that you learn that you could be kinda the metaltalin together. It's not just words; it's a proper kinyan. And the Gemara brings how strong the kinyan of Agav is. The Homat Beya, the loy nikni bechalipin. If you want to give someone money, that he should be kinda an actual matbeya, the kinyan of chalipin, which is usually a kinyan that works for anything in any circumstance. But for a matbeya, the kinyan of chalipin does not work. We learned about this by Riches and Masechta Bava Metzia and Perek Azov. There's no kinyan of a chalipin for money itself. Chalipin is a kinyan that's done with a handkerchief. When you lift up the handkerchief, and in exchange there's a kinyan that takes effect. But va'agavare nikni, but with together with a piece of land that you're selling, you could acquire money. So the same thing here. The shtar that's being sold here in this case is not just with words; it's with the kinyan of agav. And the Gemara brings a example regarding the kinyan of agav. Kihod that Rav Papa havole tresa alfa zuzi bechazoi. Rav Papa had 12,000 zuz in the city by Chazoi that they owed him this money, and he wanted to send someone to pick up this money for him. So now this person that's going to pick up the money, so they would not want to send the money with this individual to pick it up for him. Because what happens if he loses the money along the way? Whose responsibility is it going to be that if the money gets lost along the way? The ones that owe the money are going to say, if you lose the money along the way, then we are going to be responsible to pay this money because it never got to Rav Papa. So they're never going to want to send the money. So what did he do? He sold the rights of this money that he wanted him to go and collect for him, and that it belongs now to him, and if anything happens to the money, it's going to be his responsibility, Rav Shmuel bar Acha's responsibility, and not the responsibility of the ones that owe the money, that are sending the money. How was he makna to him the rights of that money? It was agav, with the kinyan of agav, with the threshold of his house. He says that I'm selling you the threshold of my house, and then agav, the threshold of my house, you also acquire the rights for this money. And then he was able to go and collect and pick up that money and bring him the money that he was owed. Kiyasa, when Rav Shmuel bar Acha arrived to Rav Papa, Nafik la'apei, he went out to him at Tovech, until the place called Tovech, to go and greet him to get the money. So the Gemara, the Rashbam says, the Gemara is bringing this detail to say that he actually brought the money. This kinyan of Agav takes effect for the money that he delivered for him. And the same thing before regarding the kinyan of shtar, that it's with a proper kinyan of agav. The whole arichas over here in the Gemara b'negea to the kinyan of agav, and that it's not so clear why the Gemara has to get into this whole arichas. Taisus over here discusses. Taisus has a whole different shot on here in the Gemara, that the Gemara here is actually trying to prove the opposite, that when it comes to a shtar, oisius, you are kinda just with words. That Taisus has a whole different shot here in this Gemara. This is the Rashbam's shot.
Getting back to Rav Nosson, did he ever give us for as to why you need the document? You need
Additionally, and additional to the Mesira.
Did he ever give us for that?
The Gemara didn't say beferish svara. I believe the svara is because since you're not selling just the physical document, you're also selling the loan that's in it, the lien, which is connected to karka. So therefore, for that, you need to have a special shtar to be kainet. Zakta Gemara, this is going back to what it said in the Mishnah in the beginning of this Pedic, where it spoke about selling a boat. The Mishnah said, that included in the sale of a boat is not the servants or the people, the sailors that are working on the boat, and not the marzufim, which are these sacks. I think it's leather sacks that are used, and loyas antiki. So here the Gemara explains the word antiki. My antiki. Omer av pape iske de bagava. Antiki are the merchandise that are on the boat. When you sell the boat, the merchandise is not included. A person that sold a wagon. The mules that pull the wagon are not included in the sale. If you sell the mules, you did not sell the wagon. These are two separate things. One does not include the other. A person that sells the yoke, he did not sell the oxen. He sold the oxen, he didn't sell the yoke. Rabbi Yehuda says, well, it depends. The amount of money that you pay will show what it is what's included in the sale. So how is this? For example, person says, sell me the yoke for 200 zuz, which is a large amount of money. So hadavi yedua, so then it's known she'einat samed b'masayim zuz. Just buying the yoke itself is not the value of 200 zuz. So that must mean that the tzemed is the yoke with the animal that comes along with it. But the Chachamim say, the money will not be a raya whether it's included in the sale or not. And if it turns out that the money that you pay is much more than what its value is, so then it'll be a mekach tos. The Gemara will discuss this. We'll see according to the Rabbanon. Tani Rav Tachlife b'Marave kamei de Rabavo. Rav Tachlife b'Marave said and taught in front of Rabavo a brayse that said machar es hakarin, that when you sell the wagon, machar es hapredis, along with the wagon you do acquire the mules. In fact, the Gemara about Vahanan loy machatnan. In our Mishnah we learned that he did not acquire the mules together with the wagon. Amalei, so Rav Tachlife b'Marave asks Rabavo, Ismei, so should I erase this brayse that I just learned and taught in front of you? Amalei, loy, you don't have to erase it. Tetargem masnitech, you should explain the brayse that you taught ba'adukim by. If they are attached, if the wagon and the mules are attached one to another, so then when you sell the wagon, it comes along with the mules. When it said in the Mishnah that the one is not, you don't sell one with the other, it's because they're detached. Then the one is not sold with the other. Here the Gemara is going to focus on the machlokes of Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda says that you look at the amount of money paid to know what's included in the sale. And the Chachamim say, no, you can't look at the money. What's the case here? If, when people, in the language of people, a yoke is called a yoke, and the oxen are called oxen. That's what it means. There's a meaning to the words that people say by a kinyan. So if so pshita, it's obvious that simda zavanle, that if he says I'm selling you a yoke, so he's only selling the yoke, and bakar leizavanle, and the oxen he did not sell. So how would there be any machlokes here about this? The elo the korale nami lebakat simda. So then you're going to say that it must be that the case here is that there are people that refer to the oxen as the yoke, because the yoke is the main thing that does the job. So therefore people refer to the oxen as the yoke. So if so, so then, if that's the case, so if tzemed means the yoke of the animal together with the oxen as well, so then you did sell the whole thing. And says the Gemara, loy tzriche, we don't need the case over here in the Mishnah is only in the following case. Here's where they argue. Asre, the karale tzimde tzimde ulabaka baka. Generally, the yoke is a yoke, and the oxen are the oxen. There's the two different terms. They don't mean the same thing. But v'ike nami the karale baka tzimde. There are those that refer to the oxen as the yoke. Rabbi Yehuda Sava. So in such a case, Rabbi Yehuda says, Hadam Maydin. The money will reveal that he is from those people that refer to it as a yoke, and therefore the oxen are included. You see that he paid such a large sum of money. The money is not going to prove anything. That's the case where there's a machlekes.
He paid so much for it.
Oh, so that's what the Gemara discusses now. Let's see. The Gemara. So let's try to finish it till the Mishnah to finish the subject. It says the Gemara, if according to the Chachamim the money doesn't prove anything, so lahavi bittul mekach. If that's the case, then the whole sale should be bottle. So the question of the Gemara is, right now the Gemara understands when Chachamim say in the Mishnah, Ein Adam Imraya, we don't pay attention to how much was paid, and the sale takes effect fully, either way. The Rashbam here brings that usually when it comes to a sale that doesn't take effect, one or two things could happen. Either the sale remains in effect, but you just have to give back the extra money that you paid. That's usually in a case where you charged a sixth more than the value. So then, by a shtus, so then the sale still stays in effect, but you give back the extra money. Then when there was a charge that was more than even a sixth, so then over there the whole sale is batal mekach legamri, completely. So the Gemara here is asking both points. That why don't we look at how much he was overcharged? Why should it say ein adam imraya, which sounds like, and the sale stays in effect? Why? Now, if you'll argue and say bittul mekach l'Rabbana leslo, the Rabbana do not hold in a case where a person overpays for a sale, they don't hold of this thing that the mekach would be bottle. And whether in a case where you have to say that the whole sale is totally bottle, or in a case where you would return the money because he was overcharged, they don't hold of that. In fact, the Gemara could that be but we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda says, a person that sells a Sefer Torah, which has a unique value, or a behemoth, an animal, or margolis, a precious gem, regarding this, these are kinds of expensive items that a person would be ready to pay sometimes, even a high sum of money. Over there, for them, there's no way no. Amrulai, and on this, the Chachamim say to Rabbi Yehuda, Loi Amru Ella Es Elu, that no, these things that you're saying, they are included in the halacha of bittul mekach, that if you overpay for them, that the sale will be bottle. But it's only elu, those things that the Chachamim said there in that Mishnah, the reisha of that Mishnah, that's beneged karkois, beneged to properties. There's no by karkois or avodim as well, shtaris. Those things there's no no. But beneged to any other metaltalin, including these kinds of expensive items, there still is a din of no. So we clear.
This is the opposite of mekach toys. Not where it's the buyer paid too much, not the seller
correct.
Charged too little.
Correct. He was overcharged, right? So in this case, we see here clearly that the Chachamim are saying that there is a din of mekach tos, and that's, as I mentioned, that if it's more than a shtos, so then the whole mekach is bottle. If it's a shtos, so then you have to give back the money. So over here, regarding our Mishnah, how could the Chachamim say en adam imraya, which sounds like that the sale is in effect? So the Gemara gives two answers. First, the Gemara says, "My ein damim raya." You know what it means when it says there in the Mishnah that the money, Chachamim say that the money doesn't prove anything. Nami diktani to have a bittul mekach. What they're saying is that true, if you overcharge, so then the sale will be bottled. We go according to the language that he said. If he said semed, it means just a yoke. It does not mean the animal. He paid so much more. He paid 200 zuz, which seems like it would include an animal as well. No, but that wasn't the agreement of the sale. He said specifically tzemed, and according to the Chachamim, tzemed means just a yoke. So ein adamim raya means you'll have to go according to the halachis of bittul mekach, that if he paid too much, the sale will be bottled. Or you could say that according to the Chachamim, the way it works is as follows: Ki omer rabbanan ayna ubitl mekach. When do you say that if a person was deceived and he paid too much for a sale, he was overcharged, and then the sale will be totally bottled? In a case where he was charged more than a sixth, that's b'chtei shadas taya. That's when a person was overcharged, but it's something that a person may have not realized that he was overcharged. You overcharged a certain percent that you thought that that's the value of it, and then later you discover that you overcharged. In such a case, you were deceived. So over here, the mekach will be bottled. But in a case where you're buying a yoke, and the yoke is worth $10, and instead of paying $10, you're paying $2,000 for a yoke. In such a case, the fact that you were overcharged $2,000, you are obviously aware that you were being overcharged. So in such a case, we're not going to be mevatel the mekach. So then, because Eimer, then I say matoni yovle. You knew that you're being overcharged. You're giving a gift. This is your way of giving a gift to this seller. So that's the case here. The Chachamim in the Mishnah were saying that the language used is clear that he meant only the tzemet, and the fact that you were overcharged, the sale will not be bottled, because it's clear that it was a large sum of money that you meant to give just as a gift.